My name is Brittany, and I'm here with Stacey today, and we're bringing you today's episode of Abnormally Normal Spring Break Camp Edition. We know the world's a little abnormal right now, but here at the zoo, we're trying to stay as normal as possible with how we're running the zoo. So, we are going to learn a little bit of what we would typically learn during our Spring Break Camp Edition, because we are going to bring Spring Break Camp to you. We're going to start off with Stacey. She's going to show us a little bit about a new friend you might not have seen here at the zoo before.
So I'm here with one of my favorite animals in the zoo. This is Jeremy. Jeremy is a giant African bullfrog, and giant is definitely true in this case. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take him out of this tank and bring him over to the table and see if he'll eat some crickets for us. In order to handle Jeremy, we have to prep our hands first. So everyone has oils in their fingers. If you put your hands on a window, you can see your fingerprints, right? So that's the oils in your skin. We want to make sure that we put a barrier between our oils and our skin and Jeremy's very special skin that Brittany's going to talk to us about later. So what we're going to do is we're going to use frog water. And that sounds really gross, right? I promise it's not. It's just distilled water. So water that you leave out overnight, maybe you say, I'm gonna put a glass of water by my bed to go to sleep with, and if you don't drink it, like I often forget to, and maybe I'll drink it the next day. That next day, it's frog water. So nothing's happened to it. You just let stuff evaporate out of it overnight and it becomes distilled water. So we're gonna use frog water on our hands. So I'm gonna spray down, I'm gonna get them nice and wet here with our frog water. Put this down, and then, so Jeremy's huge. So I have to use 2 hands to get this guy. He's like a monster-sized cheeseburger. Oh my goodness. Here he is. See those short little front legs here? So giant African bullfrog for sure. So we are gonna put him in his critter carrier here, plunk him down, and you guys can really see how big he is. So Jeremy weighs 3 pounds. So that's really, really big. So bullfrogs, giant African bullfrogs, get to a maximum of 3 pounds. I looked today and he weighs 3.1 pounds. So he's a really, really big guy. I'm gonna try to feed him some crickets as we talk about some special adaptations that he has. And if you've been watching throughout the week, we've learned that an adaptation is something that an animal has or does that helps it survive in the wild. So we're gonna see, oops, I pulled that cricket's leg off on accident, but that's okay. He might become food. Jeremy ate some lunch already today, so he may not be super hungry. And that's all right too. We'll plunk a cricket down there and he can decide if he wants to eat that later. Oh geez, my crickets are escaping here. All right, so something pretty great about Jeremy, we'll look at him like this. So frogs and toads have really big back legs. That's where all their muscles are. That helps them jump really far. Even a toad like Jeremy or a frog like Jeremy who's really big, those legs are still pretty powerful and can help him move forward. If you look, he's got these short little legs, and I'm gonna try to keep my fingers away from his face just in case he thinks they're a delicious worm. I definitely don't want that to happen. So he's got those short little legs up front, and frogs have those to help keep their bodies off the ground. So I'm gonna spray my hands again and turn them towards you so you can see them better, because those front legs are super short. And in bullfrogs, they're actually really good at digging. So they use those front feet for digging. I guess he wants to be in the corners here. I guess we'll leave him like that. So he's got those big legs for jumping, those front legs for digging. And again, he's not going to be super fast because of all he's got going on here. He's a little bit of a big guy for sure. The other cool thing about African bullfrogs is their eyeballs. So you see that their eyeballs are like bulging out of the top of their head. They serve a couple different purposes. So if he's underwater or in the mud or anything like that, he can be completely covered except for his eyes. So his eyes are the highest part of his body. So if he's trying to escape from a predator or just hide or just lay low for a little while, he can keep those big eyeballs up and he can still see all the way around him and keep himself safe and go underwater, under mud, and protect himself even further if he sees any danger. The other crazy thing that frog eyeballs do, and again, if Jeremy was hungry, we'd be able to see this, but he's not right now. So, and obviously he's had a lot of crickets already, so he doesn't need to eat any more today. Frog eyeballs, when they swallow, they actually dunk into their heads a little bit to help push food down their throat. So their eyeballs actually help them swallow. So that's a really, really crazy cool adaptation that frogs have. So bullfrogs have that giant mouth. Let's see, let me get my frog water again. Can't forget that, so I need that protective barrier. see if we'll scooch him back a little bit so you can see that really big mouth. So bullfrogs are carnivores. So that means they eat meat. And meat can be crickets, it can be worms, it can be birds or mice. Bullfrogs actually eat other frogs too. So pretty much anything that hops in front of Jeremy's mouth, he might eat. He's not too picky about his food choices. So he has that big, giant mouth, which means he can eat big, giant prey. And if he's got something like a mouse in his mouth, he doesn't chew it up. He doesn't cut it up with a knife and fork. He eats it all in one bite. And those eyeballs help push that big food item back into his belly and down his throat so he can eat those successfully. He also has a sticky tongue, just like any other frog. Oh, did he just show us a little bit? He's trying. Sometimes he's a lazy eater too. So there's a cricket right in front of him, but he doesn't go out of his way if it's a little bit too out of his reach. So if this cricket starts to move a little bit closer, he might eat it. I'll try with this one over here. And again, I'm using tongs. Let's see if I can catch a cricket. I'll skip that one. It'll take me, there he goes. So he's sticking his tongue out a little bit, but again, he's a little bit of a big lazy guy, and that's okay. He doesn't have to use a whole lot of energy to get food. Like I said, bullfrogs typically just wait until their prey walks in front of them, and then if they can reach it, they'll go for it. He does have kind of a bony piece in his mouth that acts like teeth. So if he were to grab a hold of like my finger or something, which we absolutely don't want to happen and he has never done, we would just want to make sure we keep ourselves safe there because he does have those bony pieces in there. So again, keeping my hands on this side, keeping the crickets on that side. Jeremy is 12 years old, which is crazy. So if Jeremy was in spring break camp, he'd actually be in our 5th and 6th grade camp because he's old enough to do that. But bullfrogs can live forever. Do you have any guesses on how old you think a frog could be? It's got to be older than 12. So could he be 15 or 20 or 30? Some bullfrogs can actually live into their 40s, which is so long. That's really cool that amphibians can live that long. They spend a lot of their time during their life hibernating. So he's filling up on crickets right now, or trying to at least. It's still in the corner here. He hasn't gotten it yet, but he's trying pretty hard. So they spend most of their winters, or actually 10 months out of the year, hibernating. So they actually bury themselves in the mud and keep themselves nice and relaxed for a little while. Then during the rest of the 4 months, they're up, they're breeding, they're eating, they're doing lots of stuff. So even while they're hibernating, they don't lose very much weight. They stay pretty big the whole time. So as you can see really closely here, he's got that amazing bumpy skin, and his skin is crazy cool. And Miss Brittinie is here to teach us a little bit more about amphibian skin and do a crazy cool experiment to show us how it works.
Wow, Jeremy is so cool. Amphibians are actually my favorite kind of animals. And one of the reasons is because, like Miss Stacey said, they have really, really awesome skin. But first, before I start talking about amphibian skin, I want us to do something together. Let's take a deep breath. So everyone breathe in as much as you can. 1 and out. We have these things in our chest called lungs. We actually have 2 of them. Let's see if we can fill them up as big as we can. So let's breathe again together. Ready? Breathe in and out. So something really awesome about amphibian skin is they actually breathe through their skin. So we just tried to breathe through our nose and into our lungs. So now let's hold our breath and try to breathe through our skin. Are you ready? Hold your breath and breathe. Could you do it? I can't. Let's try again one more time. Ready? Breathe. I still couldn't do it. That's because as humans, our skin doesn't allow us to breathe like amphibian skin can, and that's why it's so, so cool. But it does have some of its downfalls, which we'll talk about later. But if you look at your hand and you touch your skin, it is somewhat waterproof, and it does have some oils, like Miss Stacey said, but it's a lot different than amphibian skin. So amphibian skin has to stay wet in order to work properly. That's why they typically live by the water. Actually, amphibian means dual life, or they have a life on land and a life on water, which is a pretty cool fact. So their skin has to stay nice and moist, and it does have some oils on it, but different oils than we do. Amphibian skin also has this thing called mucus. Have you heard of those words before? Yeah, mucus is our boogers in our nose, which is pretty funny, but they can get that mucus out of their skin, and that helps keep their skin nice and wet. So we're gonna do an experiment today because my brain remembers things better if I do an activity to help me remember. All you're gonna need today is some butter. We've used that before. Hopefully you have some left. And then any kind of spices or something dry that'll stick to your hand when it gets wet. I'm using sage and cinnamon, and I already put some in this bowl for us. I want to be nice and ready for you. First, we're going to use our human skin. Remember, we can't breathe with our human skin, but it is our skin, so it's pretty cool. And I want you to use your finger and touch the spices. Did they stick? A little bit. So they stick a little bit because we do have those oils in our skin, like Miss Stacey had mentioned before, which is why when we touch amphibians, we don't want to rub anything off on our hands onto their special amphibian skin. We don't want to ruin their mucus on the outside of their bodies. So now we're going to see what it's like to be an amphibian and make our own amphibian skin. So if you want, you can just dust some of that off. And then grab your butter. So this butter is like the oil or maybe the mucus, whichever one you prefer to think about. My brain would prefer oil. And I'm going to rub it on my fingers. Now, this won't allow my finger to magically breathe just because it's all of a sudden amphibian skin, but it is going to make it extra sticky, just like their skin, because their skin has mucus and water and oil all around it. And then I'm going to touch this nice bowl of spices. I'm going to get my finger nice and dirty. Here at the zoo, we like to get as dirty as possible at spring break camp. And then we're going to pull it out. Wow, look at all of that stuff that's stuck to my finger. So just like our fingers, amphibian skin is going to get a lot of stuff in its environment stuck to it. And that's why it's really important to keep our water clean. So anything that's in the water where amphibians live is going to stick to the mucus and the oils and the water on the amphibian. Well, if you were to cover up your nose and your mouth, can you breathe? Maybe try it. Go ahead and plug your nose and try to breathe. I couldn't do it. Neither can amphibians. So if we plug up the little holes in their skin, they won't be able to breathe very well. So that's another reason why we want to keep our water as clean and natural as possible. Well, I hope you enjoyed this really fun amphibian skin activity with me. I really like to get dirty, but I just want you to promise that you're not going to stick your dirty amphibian skin finger on your brothers or sisters or anywhere it shouldn't go.